You can start.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, fellow colleagues, welcome to today's OC24 session, where we will delve into the heart of a matter that not only concerns Southeast Asia, but also has far-reaching implications globally. Today, we have assembled for you a distinguished panel of experts who bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to discuss the latest developments, challenges, and the future outlooks of Southeast Asia's drug trade. In addition, they will shed light onto the ongoing efforts by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, into enhancing cross-border law enforcement and judicial collaboration in the region. Now, before we move forward and introduce our esteemed panelists, I'll set the stage for today's discussion. The Southeast Asian region has witnessed a decade of unprecedented growth in the production and trafficking of synthetic drugs, most notably methamphetamines. The illicit drug trade has become increasingly complex, posing significant challenges to the governments and law enforcement agencies and whoever is involved in the region. While we saw a brief dip in drug seizures due to the COVID-19 pandemic, these the seizures returned to pre-pandemic levels in 2022, with nearly 151 tons of illicit substances seized. So with this dynamic landscape, detecting and investigating illicit trafficking has become an intricate task. It demands that law enforcement officers and criminal justice practitioners together hold advanced expertise in identifying and analyzing substances, and also have the ability to collaborate seamlessly with their counterparts across the border. It's against this backdrop that we've gathered our panel of experts to share their insights and experiences. Our first panelist brings to the table a decade of expertise in monitoring the developments of the illicit manufacture and trafficking of drugs in East and Southeast Asia. His insights into the changing dynamics of the drug trade in the region will be invaluable for our discussion. Mr. Inchik Sim, thank you very much for joining us. Our second panelist today holds 2 decades of track record of working with governments and regional bodies in the Americas, Europe, and Southeast Asia. He has been instrumental in the development of policies and action plans aimed at advancing border governance agendas and public information campaigns to address cross-border crime. He holds his extensive experience positions him perfectly to shed light on the policy dimensions of this complex issue. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Felipe de la Torre. And last but not least, our third panelist has a diverse background, worked as a prosecutor and a senior attorney at the Ministry of Justice in Japan before joining UNODC in criminal justice, with hands-on experience in conducting investigations, handling trials, mutual legal assistance, and extradition. He holds a unique perspective to offer on the operational aspects of countering illicit trafficking. Mr. Naoki Sugano, thank you so much for joining us. As for myself, I have the privilege of working for UNODC's regional office in Southeast Asia and the Pacific based in Lao PDR, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I'll seize this opportunity to thank the organizing committee for bringing the session together. Together, we will explore the multifaceted challenges posed by Southeast Asia's drug trade and the crucial role that UNODC plays in fostering collaboration, information sharing, and enhancing the capacity of law enforcement and criminal justice practitioners in the region. So without further ado, let's dive into today's discussion and gain a deeper understanding of the landscape of Southeast Asia's drug trade and the ongoing efforts to address it. I'll start off with Mr. Inchik Sim. I have 3 questions for you. The first one is, what do you think are the most recent and significant trends in drug trafficking in Southeast Asia, and how have they evolved over the past decade? Then could you provide a few insights perhaps into the factors that have contributed to the growth in the production and in the trafficking of synthetic drugs, particularly of methamphetamine? And last, could you perhaps expand on what have been the major challenges law enforcement agencies face in countering illicit trafficking in the region, and how have they adapted to these challenges? Inshik, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Hi, thanks, Magali. This is my great pleasure to join this session today to share my understanding of the drug business in Southeast Asia with our participants. And for the questions that you posed to me, I think I could start with the presentation as we will cover a lot of those questions. But at the same time, if any of the participants have questions, then please leave it at the chat on the chat box. So I will share my screen. Second. Does it work?
Yep, we can see.
Okay, great. So I prepared a short presentation. I think it's to set the stage for today's discussion. And I will start with a situation assessment. This is a graph for the seizures of methamphetamine in East and Southeast Asia over the last decade. As you can see, the seizures of meth have increased up until 2021. There was slight decreases in 2022. Nonetheless, it really stays at a high level. Magali mentioned at the beginning that it was 151 tons, more specifically 151.7 tons. You can see there's one distinct pattern that the seizures of methamphetamine in Southeast Asia is much larger than that of East Asia. As you can see in 2022, like 91.4% of the meth seizure totals in East and Southeast Asia were made in Southeast Asia. But if you look at the number of population, the East Asian countries are much larger, more people compared to Southeast Asia. So it tells us that the drug challenges faced by the Southeast Asian country is very significant. This is generalized the trafficking flows of methamphetamine in the region. You can see. Yes.
Sorry for interrupting. I'm not sure if it's moving.
Really?
We still see the title. Yeah.
Oh, that is not good. Still no.
Perhaps in presenting mode.
Sorry for the technical glitch. It works on my screen. No, still no.
If you click on the third slide. Now we see it. Thank you so much. Now it works.
It works?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry about this.
So, no, not at all. Not at all. It's my fault. So, yeah, I just explained this graph basically, and then I will move on to the next one, which is the trafficking flows of methamphetamine in the region. You can see some of the dots inside the map. Those kind of depict the scale of the mass production in the region. Obviously, the biggest mass producing area in the region is Shan State, Myanmar. But at the same time, we have some mass production still have some areas in the region, but they're no way there. The scale is close to the Shan State, Myanmar. And the meth produced in Shan State, Myanmar traffic largely in the Mekong states, like Thailand and Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, China, but also goes all the way to Australia, New Zealand, and Japan and South Korea as well. And one of the recent trends is increasingly these traffickers been targeting South Asian countries, such as India and Bangladesh. Especially India, when you look at the northeastern part of India, there is also some of the border management challenges between Myanmar and northeastern part of India, and we see literally every day methamphetamine has been trafficked through that border to South Asia. So what I want to highlight here is that the expansion of this mass trafficking emanating from Myanmar to different parts of the world. And one of the biggest concerns for us is the continuously decreasing price of methamphetamine. While seizures have increased in recent years, the prices of drugs have decreased. Is a really big concern. For instance, in Thailand, obviously was heavily impacted by the expansion of the mass production and trafficking from Myanmar. You can see that the price over the last 3 years really significantly decreased. In 2022, the 1 kilogram of crystal meth at a wholesale level is not even 5,000 US dollar, which is a really, really low. And when it comes to retail price in Thailand, it's about 25 to 40 dollar per gram. But about a decade ago, the price is about $100. So you can see that it's actually even more than $100. It's general, I would say the price of crystal meth in the region at the moment is about just 1/3 of the price reported a decade ago. But during the time, at the same time, we see the people been able to make more money. Their economic power has grown up, but while the drug prices have gone down, which means that the accessibility and affordability of drug by people in Southeast Asia have increased significantly. One other trend that we see is the various drug branding. I would say since the coup in Myanmar, we closely monitor these drug packagings and in cooperation with the authorities in the region. This is the data from Thailand. First two, 999 and Y1, those two brandings are associated with specific groups inside Myanmar. But we see there are different brandings, really a number of different brandings have been identified in the region since the coup in Myanmar in 2021. You can see in 2022, of all the methamphetamine tablet packages, the methamphetamine tablet found in the regions, that you can see 26.3% belong to other branding. It was not the case back in the days. If you look at it in 2022, almost all seizures were either 999 or Y1 branding. It tells us that since the political instability in Myanmar, more actors involved in this drug business, tableting and involving tableting of this yaba methamphetamine tablets, and involving also trafficking of this drug. We also have another synthetic drug that poses a challenge in the region is ketamine. If you look at this graph, the seizures of ketamine in East and Southeast Asia in 2022 was record, and 27.4 tons of ketamine were seized. Also, very similar patterns in the ketamine market observed compared to methamphetamine markets. As you can see, the seizures of ketamine in Southeast Asia is much, much larger than that of East Asia. Again, this is because of where the drug is produced these days. The ketamine in the past was largely produced in China, but now it is in Southeast Asia, in particular Myanmar and Cambodia. In 2022 was a kind of record year for Cambodia, because I mentioned 27.4 tons of ketamine was seized in 2022. About half of them was seized by Cambodia alone. This is mainly because Cambodian authorities have seized several industrial scale ketamine manufacturing facilities. This is one photo that we took when we went there to assess this level of the scale of this ketamine production facility. I have seen a few laboratories during my career, and this was I would say the largest production facility that I've ever seen during my career. You can see on your left, this is a ketamine production facility. It was found in the province near Vietnam border, between Cambodia and Vietnam border. It's about the 10 kilometer inside Cambodia side. The reactor size of this is about probably 5,000 liter. It's really huge, and there were 20 of them, 12 of them. On the right, the smaller scale but more reactors that was also found in Cambodia. Many different chemicals, about 600 tons of different chemicals were also seized together with this facility. And we have to also think about the heroin, which is not a synthetic drug. It's been here for decades. As you know, that's why this region has this golden triangle. The reputation of the golden triangle have become very famous. In 2022, again, since this coup in Myanmar, it has also brought very interesting development in the heroin market. The cultivation, opium cultivation has increased significantly in Myanmar in 2022. As you can see, the cultivation level decreased starting from 2014 up until 2020. 2021, there was a slight increase, but 2022, there was basically a 33% increase. And based on our communication with our colleagues working in Shan State, Myanmar, they informed us that the farmers returned to Shan State to involve in the opium poppy cultivation because of economic reason. They lost their jobs because of this political instability. They have not a lot of opportunities to make money. They came back to Shan State and involved in opium poppy cultivation. I mentioned earlier on the chemical issue a little bit. One of the main problems in the region is the basically no seizure of key precursor chemical. When we received this chemical methamphetamine forensic profiles from countries in the region, that they all tell us that majority of their samples analyzed made out of this epidemic pseudoephedrines, but we don't seize them at all. Really, in 2022, very minuscule amount of the epidemic pseudoephedrine was seized, and another major precursor for methamphetamine is P2P, also not really found in the regions. But we do have some understanding that the traffickers will also increasingly use these so-called non-controlled chemicals that can be used in the process of manufacturing key methamphetamine precursor chemical, also the finished products. So I gave you some overview of this drug situation in Southeast Asia, and I'd like to discuss a few points, as Magali mentioned, on the driver for this illicit business. We have to discuss first is this governance challenge. In Shan State, Myanmar is an area with is a home to many different armed groups. Some of them are aligned to the Myanmar junta, some of them are not. There have been ongoing, basically, conflict in that part of the world. And some of the armed groups are very powerful. I would say the military-wise, one group, the UWSA, is estimated to have at least 30,000 militants, and the other smaller groups also have sizable militants, and that they are operating at the border between Myanmar and China, also Myanmar and Thailand, Myanmar and PPL. So they exert their control over those key border areas in Shan State with the other neighboring countries. And one of their main sources of income is no doubt that is drug production and trafficking. And I mentioned a few times that the political instability have driven this expansion of illicit business, in particular drug trafficking, production and trafficking. And one was I explained based on those different drug renderings have been identified since the coup increasingly. And we have seen several times whenever there is political instability, it provides opportunity for organized crime groups to operate in those areas, because nowadays, and for instance, in Shan State, while there are some conflicts inside Shan State, but it's not as big as the other parts of Myanmar. As a result, there is a basically law enforcement vacuum in Shan State, and also that provide opportunities conducive environment for organized crime groups to migrating into Shan State in cooperation and then cooperate with those non-state armed groups in Myanmar to produce drugs and involved in scamming operation these days. That's the last point that I want to get into today is scamming operations and casinos and special economic zones. And, I mentioned over the years that drug business have evolved and expanded, and there's so much money has been generated out of this. And there is a clear reason why there is a need basically for these people to launder money. And we see that as a casino as a perfect partner for that matter. And we also see the rising number of these online casinos as well, special economic zones. And we have done some study. And when you look at it, the profiles of people behind or building these casinos sometimes have close associations with the drug traffickers or known criminals. And also that's the case for special economic zone. One good example is Golden Triangle Special Economic Zone, which is located in Pokeo, Laos, has been sanctioned by U.S. Treasury, and this just located right across the Shan State, and has been known as one of the key, I would say, the conduit for this expansion of the drug businesses in Southeast Asia. So all in all, I would like to also give you some our understanding where this drug business or illicit economies expand or will head it in Southeast Asia. First one is I will really want to highlight that we have seen this a lot. The organized crime groups always try to concentrate into area where there is governance challenge. And this is particularly matters to us in the Mekong because there are border management challenges because of those armed groups operating those areas in Myanmar. And the second one is a jurisdiction shopping. It might be a little bit strong word, but we have seen this a lot. When one country respond heavily on organized crime, they migrate into different area and they're starting to exploiting that area. We have seen this in the drug business, scamming business as well. Investment in infrastructure is quite concerning that the known criminal has been investing into infrastructure that will definitely facilitate their trade of illicit commodities. And the last one is accelerate adoption of technology. We have seen this in the scamming business, that the AI is also now used by criminals for the scamming purposes. And I think there is no way turning back from this development. And more criminals will use this technology, and while law enforcement authorities will face challenges to how to respond to those evolved crime landscape in the regions. I will leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Renshik, and thank you. This is very interesting. I may have one last question for you. Drawing on a specific case study of there were 151 tons of methamphetamine seized in 2022. I was wondering if you could elaborate perhaps on the implications of this and what this indicates as to the drug trade's current state in Southeast Asia and the Pacific for a minute or two, if you do.
Sure. Thank you, Magali. I think I explained a lot based on the supply side of the situation here. It's mainly because of lack of data on drug demand in the region. But 151 tons, if you think about it, is a lot. We are talking about just seizure. Those undetected amount of methamphetamine, how much that would be. I mean, nobody really knows, but let's just make it easy for our just estimate. Let's say law enforcement sees only 10% of the all drug traffic in Southeast Asia and East Asia. The 151 tons only represent the 10% of the total mass circulating in the region. That's a lot. That is really, really a lot. Then we're talking about like 1,500 tons or something like that. And there are several studies shows that the normal dosage of methamphetamine, especially crystal methamphetamine, is about 30 milligrams. Of course, depending on the situations and the amount of the years of use, or some different modality of both of the use as well. But let's just say 30 milligrams. That's how many doses that we are talking about here. that the drug demand in the region has been really seriously underestimated. And there are a few countries been conducted the national household survey, but it is quite difficult to just believe that everything in that report is 100% correct. In a situation where the several countries, the countries have this the punitive approach for the drug use in many cases, and it's very difficult for us to expect these people were surveyed, even if they use drugs, they will say, yes, I use drugs. It is very unlikely. So based on all those indications here, I think the drug demand in the region have been really, really seriously underestimated. I think that's the one thing that I want to share with people joining the event. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so to better understand how to better estimate these drug trades, I think it's really important to bring forth the institutional framework surrounding illicit trafficking. And so with this, I'll turn it to Felipe. And if you could maybe expand a little bit, I mean, we all know that the ASEAN Border Management Cooperation Roadmap plays a crucial role in addressing illicit trafficking. And so I was wondering, how was this framework created to address the growing connectivity, infrastructure, and illicit trafficking challenges posed in the region in Southeast Asia and the Pacific? Felipe.
Thank you, Magali, and dear audience. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Well, for me, great pleasure to address to you today. I am Felipe, as Magali introduced me already. I am from Ecuador, and I have been working many years in the areas of border governance and border management, before in the Americas, and now I have a pleasure to serve for the UNODC Office on Drugs and Crime in Southeast Asia from Bangkok. I believe that what Inshik said is really a very interesting setting of the ground, because basically he was able to explain, the actual magnitude of the problem. And while drug trafficking still is a huge concern in the region, I believe that through the implementation of the border management actions that we do in Southeast Asia, we have come to understand that not only drug trafficking is a serious issue, but that drug trafficking is connected to other serious crimes. Usually, drug trafficking rings are involving young girls, young boys. There we have the issue of exploitation of children. We have the issue of abuse of adolescents for the actual harvesting of drugs. The youth is very much involved in the actual production, distribution of the drug product. And of course, money laundering is one of the big bridges that allows all this machinery of money to end up in the accounts of those new millionaires who are the owners of the casinos, as Inshik explained. So we are not talking here about drugs. We are talking here about a series of criminal offenses that affect the human being, that affect the economy, and that challenge seriously the infrastructure of Southeast Asia. And when Magali asks me about the ASEAN Border Management Cooperation Roadmap, it is relevant to mention that this framework of action basically originated in the great will or desire of the ASEAN community to protect its infrastructure. One of the things that really strikes and is globally recognized about Southeast Asia is the fact that these countries have been able to really improve, boost, and develop an amazing and surprising infrastructure in so few years. And this is why, while of course there are countries that have much more development than others in the same region, it is undeniable that Southeast Asia has made huge progress in this respect. So with this in mind, Southeast Asian leaders met a couple of years ago and decided that this infrastructure has to be protected, and this infrastructure has been seriously targeted and could be used by drug cartels and criminal rings in order to expand, facilitate, and move illicit goods around Southeast Asia or throughout Southeast Asia. So in this respect, this framework called the ASEAN Border Management Cooperation Roadmap is a response to this worry, to this preoccupation of Southeast Asian countries to protect their infrastructure. And how did they do it? Basically, it is a framework of action, an umbrella, a high-level policy that contains a series of actions in order to take border management to a next level of efficiency, of efficacy, of modernity. So when we are talking, Magali, about border management cooperation roadmap, of course, we are dealing with an instrument that aims to protect ASEAN's infrastructure. It aims to protect ASEAN's well-being in the sense that better managed borders are there to impede illicit goods from moving around, which is a very ambitious objective, of course. But with this framework, we are addressing not only the illicit trafficking, but also the speed with which people and goods move around the region. So it is a twofold instrument. This is why it is very interesting, because as I say, it is an instrument that allows illicit trafficking to be at least contained, and the seizures that Inshik mentioned are an evidence of this, but also it is an instrument that allows border management to be an instrument of much more efficacy and use for the people of Southeast Asia, for the people that want to do business in Southeast Asia, for the tourists that are allowed and that are able to move faster and with more easiness in the region. This is a bit of the rationale behind the roadmap and how this desire to protect the infrastructure, to improve the connectivity, has been intelligently linked with the threat that organized crime, of course, poses to all of us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for letting us know how this came about with it, and how the roadmap came about, and also the importance of having such a roadmap to address this multifaceted challenge. I'm wondering if you could expand a little bit on how it's structured, how the roadmap is structured, and what is the main content of this roadmap for the audience. Thank you.
Yeah. I will share a link for the audience to access the actual document. We will ask our colleagues from GI-TOC to help us with this. The roadmap is a high-level policy. So the roadmap is not a law, or is not a national law. It is not a regional declaration. It is a high-level policy, meaning that it sets a series of actions that should be taken seriously by the member states in order to harmonize how border management is conducted. One of the issues that is very relevant for the audience to understand is that before this roadmap was adopted, each member state somehow had its own vision, its own objectives, its own philosophy on how to manage borders. By coming together and understanding that connectivity should be boosted, that infrastructure should be protected, and that illicit trafficking should be contained, they came to the agreement that border management is actually a crucial instrument in order for these three elements, these three factors to move forward. In this respect, the roadmap constitutes an umbrella of action so that member states have clarity and have transparency in the way they should move forward with border governance and management. I always want to differentiate between border governance and border management, because border governance is more the policy part. It's the part that relates to how high-level decision makers basically understanding factors of macroeconomy, of trends and patterns like the ones Inshik explained, sit and gather in order to decide what kind of really overarching instrument is the ideal one to address the issues, in this case, illicit trafficking and boosting connectivity. And border management is more the actual technical part, the part that is more dealing with how law enforcement, how a police officer, a border control officer in a border actually displays his or her tasks, duties, in order for the overarching goals to be crystallized or implemented. So while I want always to make this difference, it's important to say that the roadmap, this ASEAN border cooperation roadmap, is a high-level policy that contains a series of principles that are translated into 9 actions. These 9 actions are, of course, very well elaborated, but I would say that could be summarized in 3 main areas. The first one, the part of infrastructure and technology. So the border management roadmap contains recommendations on how border management agencies, border governance agencies, should be using technology and should be developing infrastructure in order for borders to be properly managed and functional, right? So there are some actions in that direction. Other actions that are for us, as for the international community, of extreme relevance are the ones that innovate in a way, because they include elements of gender equality, which have not been seen so before in other instruments like this one. So actually, the roadmap invites member states to collect disaggregated data, for example, on gender. This is something very unique, because usually we don't know the scope or the dimension of female officers in the border management business. In a way, this is a channel to understand better what women's contributions are to border management and governance, and also a way to promote women's work and to invite more women to take active role in the management of borders. And the third, and of course, very relevant for the work UNODC does, is the fact that one of the actions is an invitation to member states, ASEAN member states, to use the Border Liaison Offices network as a reliable and trustworthy mechanism for them to share intelligence, to share information about the illicit movement of goods, and to cooperate intra-regionally in order to, in first place, detain or contain or prevent this illicit trafficking, but also to improve the connectivity and to boost the economy and the well-being of Southeast Asian citizens. So in that respect, I believe that disease recognition in such a high-level policy is, of course, a great honor for us, but also a great responsibility, as we are now obliged to provide much more efficient, also technical assistance to the member states we serve. I hope I was able to explain myself.
Thank you. Thank you. And this was very clear. So we've just had a conversation on how international collaboration is essential in addressing transnational organized crime, such as drug trafficking, as highlighted by Felipe, through law enforcement collaboration. So now I'd like to give the floor to Naoki to expand on judicial cooperation in the respect of, in this respect, to address judicial cooperation to address transnational organized crime. So cross-border judicial cooperation includes mutual legal assistance and extradition. And I'm wondering if you can highlight the key challenges and the recent achievements made in strengthening such cooperation in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. And as well, in the same breath, if you could provide a few examples of successful cases or instances where a judicial cooperation network, such as CJUST, has made a significant impact in addressing illicit trafficking. Yeah, Naoki, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Magali. Distinguished audiences, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak at this important forum. And thanks to INCHIC for setting the stage, outlining the magnitude of drug trafficking issues, and also Felipe for broadening the scope for transnational organized crime associated with drug trafficking, and also the important initiatives taken to strengthen border management and border law enforcement cooperation. So for the cross-border, for example, law enforcement cooperation to bear fruit with conviction against cross-border transnational organized crime, judicial cooperation is critically important. So if you're, as a prosecutor or law enforcement investigating these crimes, you might have to get access to bank records that is located in foreign jurisdiction, or if you're dealing with trafficking cases, you might need to get evidence, for example, intercepted communication that has been made in other jurisdictions. So in drug trafficking cases, the other country may have intercepted a communication, telephone communication, and you might need to get them as evidence that is admissible in your own jurisdiction. So, law enforcement can get these evidence, but in order to have them as an admissible evidence for your trial, you have to go through formal process of mutual legal assistance, for example. And the challenge with MLA, mutual legal assistance, is that it is a rather complicated process that takes time, and also understanding of different legal systems or different legal proceedings and processes. So to illustrate these challenges, I have prepared some slides for reference, and let me see if I can share the screen. Okay. So this slide outlines the MLA process, and here it is an example of MLA process going through diplomatic channels. That means going through embassies and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And actually, there may be other opportunities for authorities to, central authorities to directly cooperate if there is a treaty basis. But here I would draw some examples on the cases that have to go through mutually diplomatic channels that could take time and can make things complicated. So if you're in country A investigating some transnational organized crime cases, drug trafficking cases, competent authority, that means police or the prosecutors that are at the front line investigating the case, may need, for example, data stored in a computer in other jurisdiction, or cell phone records, or maybe need witness statements from a witness located in other countries. So in those cases, they would have to develop a mutual legal assistance request and go through their own central authority, that is a gatekeeper that provides advice to these competent authorities. And these MLA requests would, in many cases, when you don't have the bilateral treaty basis or multilateral treaty basis, you have to go through the Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs in your own country, send the request to the embassy in the other jurisdiction. And from there, the request goes to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and go to their central authority. So it takes already quite some time through this process. And it gets even more complicated if it involves different legal system or legal proceedings. So in some countries, for example, if you need a bank record, you don't need a warrant, search warrant to get a bank record. So if country A was country where they don't need any search warrant to get a bank record, they might want to get the same support from country B. However, the country B may require search warrant or may need a subpoena from the court to get bank records. And in those cases, challenges occur if the country A didn't have knowledge or understanding of the different systems in other countries. Mobile phone communication, that's also another challenge in some cases, especially when you want to get a content of such communication. There may be different standards, court orders, standards to get court orders. So those are the kind of complex issue that is involved in the process, and that's why it becomes quite a challenge. So to highlight the challenge, I highlighted the process going through the foreign diplomatic channels, but the key players here would be the central authorities that I mentioned as a gatekeeper or the facilitator of these mutual legal assistance processes. And it is essential to support these central authorities so that they can closely work together based on trust and also mutual understanding of different legal systems and requirements. So in order to have effective day-to-day operation, it is essential to have a network where the central authority can pick up a phone and have a call with their contact points in the network to seek about their process, the other country's processes or legal requirements. And also, apart from such network, having a platform for in-depth knowledge or expertise sharing that can strengthen the legal understanding of legal systems or legal procedure, that would also be quite useful. So that's where the recent developments that I would like to highlight here comes into play. That is CJUST and CRIM-AP, supported by UNODC. So CJUST is an operational network of central authorities created in 2020, and that comprised of 17 member countries so far. When it started in 2020, it was 8 member countries of Southeast Asia participating, and in 3 years, we have doubled its membership to 17. All ASEAN countries now joined the network, and we also have Australia, Maldives that is beyond Southeast Asia, Republic of Korea, Romania, Indonesia, and United States, Mongolia joined recently. So this is a very rapidly expanding network. And I think it already shows how useful member states find having such network for cooperation. CRIM-AP, its formal name is Criminal Justice Forum for Asia and the Pacific. This is a knowledge sharing and expertise sharing platform for criminal justice experts. And a working group on mutual legal assistance was established in 2021 for the central authority practitioners. Participants somewhat overlap, but slightly different. So ASEAN countries participate in this platform. We also have Canada, China, Japan, Papua New Guinea, and New Zealand participating in this Criminal Justice Forum for Asian Pacific net platform, which meet annually to have in-depth discussion on practical and substantive matters related to mutual legal assistance. So CJUST is a operational network that supports the day-to-day operation, and CRIM-AP is the knowledge sharing, expertise sharing platform that serve, in Japanese, we call it the two wheels of a cart. So one cart here, that drives the cart straight. So yes, with request to addressing the request from Magali, cases facilitated by CJUST. As of last year, over 50 cases have been facilitated through CJUST, and CJUST facilitates the communication collaboration of the central authorities by supporting direct communication between the central authorities so that they can contact directly to seek for available measures or necessary legal procedural requirements. Or maybe give a call to get some updates on ongoing or pending requests. So, and the network not only serves within the network, but it's also puts the central authorities in touch with central authorities outside the network. As you see here, in 20% of the cases are among the CJUST members, but actually the 80% of the cases facilitated goes outside CJUST network. So if you need to get in touch with the central authorities of other countries, that's where the CJUST Secretariat would come in to support facilitating those cases. The point is that due to the confidentiality issues, once we put the central authorities in touch, the Secretariat would stay away from the substantive investigation or substantive information of the cases. So we don't have the specificity or detailed cases of what kind of each cases. However, we've seen many cases related to drug trafficking or transnational organized crime issues being supported, facilitated through the CJUST network, which requires identifying the suspects or going after bank records. Or even in some cases, CJUST is basically an MLA central authority network, but can also support urgent cases of extradition. But because some countries' central authorities serve as a central authority for MLA and the extradition, so that's where they can also work on identifying competent authorities related to extradition cases. So for the time, and so as a Secretariat of CJUST, we are working on further effectively collecting statistics and information from the member states and discussing with the member states to what extent we can share such information outside the network. So those are some of the I just wanted to highlight some of the key challenges and the recent developments related to judicial cooperation. And I'll give the floor back to you, Magali.
Thank you, Naoki. So be it both on the ASEAN Border Cooperation Roadmap or on CJUS and CRIM-AP, we've seen the importance of having an institutional framework to address cross-border collaboration or to address illicit trafficking through cross-border collaboration from law enforcement and from criminal justice practitioners alike. So now I'd like to expand on the role UNODC has and the impact UNODC has in both of this. So just a side note to our audience, if you have any questions, feel free, I think there's a Q&A section, feel free to ask in the Q&A. And if we have time at the end, we'll address these. Felipe, I was wondering, so you mentioned the ASEAN Border Management Roadmap in the first set of questions. Within this framework, how does UNODC support cross-border law enforcement cooperation to address illicit trafficking? And what are some of the most notable successes in this area that UNODC has undertaken? Can you please expand on this?
Sure. Thank you, Magali. It's so hot here in Bangkok that I need like water. Okay, so I commented about the roadmap, correct? This overarching policy, this overarching instrument that allows member states of Southeast Asia to have clarity and transparency with respect to what to achieve and where to go with respect to border management, border governance. And I would like to reiterate the fact that this roadmap has not only the purpose of helping member states managing borders, but also to, of course, prepare member states to better contain illicit trafficking, the illicit movement of goods. And I would like to reiterate also that while drug trafficking is, of course, a big concern for the region, there are other associated serious criminal offenses that are connected to drug trafficking and that have serious impact on Southeast Asian citizens, their health and well-being. Said so, I would like to mention that UNODC has been working very closely with ASEAN member states in two pillars. And that is why I believe it's very relevant for the audience to understand this difference between border management and border governance. Border governance, as I said, is the way and the result of high-level discussions of decision makers, and that are translated into a policy, into a vision, a general vision of how the region should address a particular topic, right? And border management is, of course, the more technical, the more practical aspects of border governance. How really border governance is implemented and is taking place in a border post. So I believe that what we have been doing in UNODC is addressing these two parts, right? These two pillars, border governance and border management. And in the area of border governance, I believe it's very relevant for the audience to know that for the first time, UNODC convoked a number of ASEAN member states to Pattaya in Thailand with the intention to understand what is the status of implementation of this roadmap, to discuss what are the challenges, to discuss what are the difficulties they have with respect to managing borders, and what is that they would like to see in the future in the area of border management. So we hosted, together with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Thailand, a very successful dialogue in Pattaya in February 2023. I have some, let's see, but I don't know where I have it anymore. I had some pictures, I don't know where to find them now, but basically, this dialogue was a great opportunity for member states to see what is that they are doing, what is the main challenge they face, and what are the main topics or the main goals they would have in the future with respect to managing borders. In that respect, covering border management, we were able to produce a number of recommendations with respect to the future of this roadmap. And we are very happy and very proud to tell the audience that, yes, these recommendations cover a number of very innovative aspects of border management that have not been taken into account before. Usually, border management has been only addressed from the law enforcement point of view, meaning working with police entities in order to contain drugs in selected border points. But thanks to this regional dialogue that I'm sharing you about, and thanks to these recommendations that we were able to contribute and that member states adopted, now the region has a more, I would say, comprehensive, a more holistic vision with respect to border management, as it includes issues relating to the well-being of border communities, for example, something that was not included before in any instrument. We are also paying a lot of attention to data collection, to the cross sharing of information, which is one of the main aspects to be developed. And I believe it's very interesting that also member states are more and more convinced of the importance of women in the border management business. So yes, these are for me the most important successes in the areas of border management and border governance. And of course, one that is of major significance is the fact that through the BLO network, this Border Liaison Offices network, we were able to gather countries in the region, specifically Cambodia and Vietnam, to run an actual operation, a practical exercise where their border officers got together, reached an agreement of a strategy, and they were able for 4 months conduct a series of activities in order to catch and seize illicit goods in the Vietnamese Cambodian border. This exercise, which was called an operation, was actually the main vehicle for the seizure of a significant amount of drugs, including heroin. So this, I would say, is a very concrete result, is a very successful example of a border governance policy that is translated into a border management action that has very concrete results for the well-being and for the population.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Felipe. I see we have a question in the chat. I will address it right after giving the floor to Naoki. Naoki, I was wondering if you could provide more details as well, talking about UNODC's impact. If you could provide more details on UNODC's role. I know you touched upon this a little bit in our first set of questions as the Secretariat of CJUS and CRIM-AP, and the support provided by UNODC to strengthen legal frameworks and the capacity of Southeast Asian countries to enhance cooperation.
Sure. Thank you, Magali, for addressing those questions. Yes, so CRIM-AP, CJUS, they are both knowledge sharing platform and also an operational network. And UNODC serves as secretariat of both these initiatives. CJUS is an operational network that puts the central authorities in touch, and UNODC is our team in Bangkok is the go-to place for the central authorities of the network when you need to get in touch with other authorities beyond the network. So there's been cases where Southeast Asian countries needed access to Central Authority of Guernsey. That's a channel state between UK and the continental Europe, or needed access central authorities of Seychelles. So that's where UNODC, our team, comes into play to put in touch these central authorities. So we maintain good collaboration contacts with other networks. Similar to CJUST, there are other networks in Central Asia and in Africa. So those are maintained by UNODC, so that's quite easy to maintain connection with other networks. Also, European Judicial Network Secretariat, we work also very closely with them so that we can support our network members to get in touch with the members. And also the other way around, when European countries wanted to get urgent contact with the member states of Southeast Asia, that's where we provide support for cooperation. Actually, both CJUST and CRIM-AP organizes annual meetings and regular meetings for the central authorities. And CJUST, we have annual plenary meeting that brings the members together so that they can discuss about the organizational matter of the network. CJUST is a network owned by the members. It's the members network, and UNODC is the support. So the sense of ownership of the participating members is also a very important factor for CJUST to be such a successful network. And we are very grateful to be in the position to support the work of the CJUST contact point. And related to CRIM-AP, which is a knowledge sharing platform, we have more dedicated time to discuss in depth about substantive and technical aspects. For example, this year we have touched upon handling of the electronic evidence and also how technologies like video conferencing has been used in the mutual legal assistance context in interviewing witnesses or suspects or defendants. So we've had some dedicated discussions to strengthen the knowledge base and and also developed a report that could be shared with the participating countries so that their knowledge base can be enhanced and strengthened. At the same time, we have provided, and through these exercises, it has been quite evident that there's been some gaps between the capacity of the central authorities. Some countries' central authorities have a large team with a breadth of expertise, whereas others may have recently established the central authorities, and there may have some challenges in knowledge and capacity in that regard. So UNODC, our team has been working closely with the members that request our support, and we've been providing trainings and workshops for the central authorities, and also develop tools or forms for MLA purposes. Most recent activities that we have conducted is in Lao PDR and Cambodia of the training of trainers to develop a pool of trainers that can support the central authorities and also the frontline practitioners to inform them of the availability of mutual legal assistance and what is necessary to develop these MLA requests. I've touched upon just a little bit about handling electronic evidence. That is also nowadays critically important with the abuse of technology by the organized crime groups, including the drug traffickers. So we have developed a handbook for handling electronic evidence, and also what we call electronic evidence fish. That is an online platform where you can see different procedural requirements or different procedural measures that are available in handling electronic evidence of the members of Southeast Asia. We've also provided trainings for prosecutors on developing their capacity dealing with electronic evidence and technologies. and also provided some translation support because the language is also one of the challenges in addressing MLA. I won't go into other issues that are less relevant to today's topic, but we have been working extensively with the member states in the region to develop the capacity. And in relation to drug trafficking or transnational organized crime, perhaps next opportunity or areas that we would be willing to support would be use of special investigating techniques, how that can be further utilized by the law enforcement and the judicial officers to address the transnational organized crime and the drug trafficking. So that's pretty much it from me. And I think we have some more time for Felipe to address the question in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Naoki. And I think I see we have 2 minutes left. And there is one question indeed in the group chat or in the Q&A section. Felipe, this question is for you. I'm wondering if you have access or like a reference tool for the question, which is asking on drivers of engagement of communities in illicit activities. So the role of border communities in addressing transnational organized crime. In 1 minute, do you have something to offer?
Well, basically to share with the audience that UNODC was able to carry out for the first time in Southeast Asia a survey using local volunteers in order to ask normal people in more than 50 borders in Southeast Asia about what is the impact of illicit trafficking in their daily lives. The results of this survey were absolutely fascinating because we were able to understand what is really that worries the people in the region. And that has been a crucial factor for UNODC to better plan, design our technical assistance programs. Border communities play a crucial role in helping law enforcement detect the presence of possible movement of illicit goods. So I believe that the future of border management, besides law enforcement, is really making sure that communities, that people living at borders play a more active role in the border management business. That is, in a snapshot, my contribution. Thank you so much, Magali.
Thank you, and thank you to Naoki as well for paving the way for, or suggesting the way for a way forward. I think this concludes today's panel session, given that the time has come and this is a 24-hour conference, meaning that there's a lot of conferences or panel discussions for you to follow afterwards. Thank you very much to Felipe, to Naoki, and to Inchik for participating in today's panel. Thank you to the OC24 organizing committee for facilitating this. Everything on, well, UNODC's resources are available online for you, UNODC _SEAP on Twitter. And you can also see the the website UNODC Regional Office for Southeast Asia and the Pacific for any further information. That concludes today's panel. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me to moderate, and that's it for today. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.